Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Louis D'Souza here. Today is Monday, January the 28th, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, 1 p.m. in London, and Sydney, Australia is at 12 midnight. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for tuning in for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And we're going to get this week off to a happy start as best we can, taking on a topic that has a very loose and free-flowing feel to the title. Okay, I'm starting to get the law of attraction. What now? And Louis, I'm trying to remember why we came up with that particular phrasing, but I thought it's a very casual title, and I like it very much.
It just popped into my head, specifically for the LOA to Change My Life group. There's a lot of new people to it. So
yes,
a lot of people have touched the secret, and I was sitting in the sauna the other day, and there's this guy who comes up to me, and we start chatting, and I realized that he's watched The Secret, and he's very, very excited about the whole concept, and he wants to take it a bit further. And then I sit in front of him and move him forward through the whole process, and he was really so excited. So,
wow.
There's many instances where I draw people to me that are wanting to know the next step of the law of attraction, or how to get to know it in a bit more detail, a bit more clarity,
right? Mm-hmm.
So they can implement it in their life. So.
Well, plus also, you're like the champion of running sauna groups, aren't you? I mean, that's like where you draw your best recruits in through saunas.
I love the sauna. I love the sauna. For the detox and the chats, it's a very sociable club, so it's nice, because I mean, if you go to Europe and you talk in a sauna, they want to kill you. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll bear that in mind next time I go to Europe. Don't go to the saunas. Oh.
And the Europeans really, really get annoyed when I say that, because they'll say, "Isn't England part of Europe?"
This is true. This is true.
No, I don't think so, is it? It's an old one that I've come across it many times. That the Europeans know that the English don't think England is in Europe. So I wanted to touch base on how to take it a bit further. So, what are the basics? The basics are what you think about, you draw towards you. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got that. People get that from The Secret. People realize that they must focus on what they want, not what they don't want.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
And it's really quite simple. And, they might have got to the stage of understanding when you say no to something, you're saying yes to something you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
So
although that's more of an advanced step, actually. I mean,
it is.
The first step
is. That's why I say they may have got.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so they're getting to this place where they want to know how to integrate that into their lives. And, of course, you've got the Abraham Hicks bolt-ons, which are your emotions are your guidance system.
Mm-hmm.
Every subject's two subjects.
Right.
So when you start filling those in, you really start moving forward in understanding the law of attraction. But without all the pieces of the puzzle pieced together, and you create your own reality as well through your thoughts. So when you bolt all those on and you start seeing all those pieces of the puzzle fit together, it is really, really an incredible tapestry of philosophical basis and understanding and teaching. And it is really on a level of me looking at different paths, religions, groups, etc. my whole life. It's right at the top. And
I like the fact that you describe it as a tapestry, because it does seem that the various pieces, on the surface anyway, they seem like they're disconnected, but they're all very carefully intertwined together. And that's exactly what a tapestry is. So good metaphor on that.
Exactly. Yeah. Hi, Siraj. I see you just popped in. So that tapestry is what I've been working with the guys in the sauna at the moment. And I'm starting after about 2 years and lots of objections to see that the pieces of the puzzle are starting to click together for some.
Well, what are some of the objections you're hearing?
Well, let's say the last one I had in the sauna was this. I believe that the human race as a whole, this is what is said to me, should be vegan.
Ah, yes,
Okay.
that's the idea that everyone should be thinking the way I think because the way I think is the right way to think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, A, not minding your own business, sticking your nose in other people's business. So one of the first things I say to that is, oh, so I'm wrong if I eat meat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. that really gets to the nub of it.
And it gets my goat hairs up if somebody tells me that what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, or what I want to do and what I don't want to do is right or wrong. You know, it's just... And I bring the right in as well. There's a reason for that. I've always said I don't care if people love me, it's their problem. And I don't care if they hate me, it's their problem.
That's it, in a nutshell. I also like the way Abraham, excuse me, the way Abraham expresses it. They talk about how they have a particular quote that comes from, I think it's from their main book, The Law of Attraction Basics. In that quote, they talk about disapproval. I'm looking it up right here. It says, their disapproval of me is their lack. If there are others who see something in you that they do not approve of, most often you see their disapproval reflected back through their eyes, and you feel that you've gone wrong in some way. But we say to you, it's not your lack, it's theirs. It's their inability to be the allower that brings forth their negative emotion. It's not your imperfection. And in like fashion, when you feel negative emotion because you've seen something in others you don't want to see, it's not their lack, it's your own. And that's exactly what I think about when I think about what you just talked about. People saying, well, you should be a vegan. You should be thinking the way I'm thinking. I disapprove of you.
Is that how the Americans say it?
Yeah, that's right.
But it's vegan, it's not vegan. You've got to get it right.
Well, being a non-vegan, I tend to say vegan. So you say tomato, I say tomato. I say let's call the whole thing off.
Oh, I love that one. So you brought up a very good point, and the point is when you're looking at anybody, if you're seeing anything negative in them, it's a reflection. It is what is going on inside you.
Yes.
Your cup is half empty, okay? Be clear on that. So if you are seeing things that you like in somebody else, that's a reflection of you. Mm-hmm. So we want to see the reflection of what somebody's doing and what somebody's saying or where somebody's going, or your own where you're going. You just look at what you are seeing in other people. If you hate your boss, you've got a problem in yourself.
Isn't that a strange thing?
You hate your partner, you've got a problem in yourself.
Because we figure, I've got a good reason for hating this other person. It's not me, it's them.
Now, as Abram says, you've probably got a very good reason, and it's probably very justified, but it is still a reflection.
That's true.
Of your thinking.
Yeah. And it's hard to remember that. It's hard to think about that way. I mean, because we're so used to the idea of pointing fingers, of blaming, of saying, oh, no. They're the ones who are making me feel this way. They're the ones who are mistreating me. They're the ones who are this, they're that. We're used to that. That's our normal form of discourse on planet Earth.
And people are always, let me rephrase that. People are often looking for love in all the wrong places. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what that statement says. So
yeah.
One really needs to get clear about looking for love in all the wrong places and what it means. It means that you don't need anybody else to behave in a different way for you to feel happy. You're just happy for no real reason, and you're just happy because you want to be happy. Mm-hmm. And you're happy because you know if you're happy, the law of attraction will bring you more happiness. So there's no real reason not to be happy or feel happy or do happy. Doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. So it's fun. It's really fun when you start playing with it. And of course, the pieces of the puzzle that start fit together is if I create my reality and if I stay more positive, then the universal law of attraction will bring more of that to me. Mm-hmm. Then I'll be more empowered. Then I will get more of what I want, and what I don't want will start fading away, and I will get more what I want. And then if I focus on more happiness, then I'll get more that I want. And so it goes round. And so the pieces of the puzzle start fitting together, and you start realizing that you become a very, very confident person. You become somebody who's only place they look for recognition, approval, etc., is their emotions. Their emotions are their higher self. They're not looking anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that look you're giving me now doesn't look so friendly, but I don't care because I'm listening to my higher self. It is saying, hey, continue, do what you're doing, Louis. It's cool.
The ironic part is that the look you're getting is probably the other person saying, I wonder what this guy's talking about, rather than what you thought it was.
Oh, well, we'll need to go back to the basics one I did in the first one.
Yeah, this is true.
Episode number 1 with Louis will explain. My website's going up, and I'm going to have all just my podcasts, and I'm going to separate them from the other guys, just so that I've got my own, so that I can refer to episode 1, 2, 3,
right,
as we go along, so I don't need to repeat too much of many, of a lot of things that I say. We can get people to go back and listen to the old ones. I love you, Amanda. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a love fest going on right now in the comments section. Everybody's greeting each other, saying hello, how you doing, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, which is great.
Well, hello, Amanda.
Yes. Welcome to One and All. And by the way, I want to remind everybody, this is also a Q&A. If you have a question you want Louis and I to discuss on the podcast, feel free to type one in if you're listening to the live stream, and we'll be glad to do it. Meanwhile, we're just going on with this basic concept that Louis raised of, okay, so what's next? I got the basic idea. What do I do next?
So I'll go back to the sauna because it kind of brought up other questions. The guy was saying the reason why I don't want to eat anything is because they are sentient. Now, if you look up the word sentient, it means can feel something. Then I said that my belief structure is that everybody is... Walt, your video's gone off, by the way. Hello? Ah, there we go. You're back.
We've had interesting connection issues lately, but they're ironing themselves out because I'm maintaining that positive viewpoint.
That's the most powerful thing you can do with the confusion of the technological world.
It is. Sometimes it's the only thing you can do is just sit there and just be patient. Wait for it.
So as I was saying, the what I believe is that everything is part of God's stuff. And as far as I understand it, and I can't prove this, but it seems to make logical sense to me, and I think Abrams mentioned it as well, is that as soul, you come down to experience the contrasting physical universe, and you would come down as something like a mineral. From a mineral, you would go to a plant. From a plant, you go to an animal. From an animal, you go to a human. From a human, you would go to a more enlightened human. And from that end stage, you may choose to go back to the beginning and start the whole process again.
Okay.
And the implications of all that are quite vast if you start looking at them from different points of view. One is you stop worrying so much about becoming enlightened, and you start wanting to live more in the present and play with the contrast of where you're at.
Ah, yes.
Because once you're enlightened, you may choose to go back to be a rock again. So the whole enlightenment thing kind of gets thrown out the window, which I kind of like. Personally, it has always been a bit of a rock to, a bit of a boulder on the shoulders to carry, that I have to become more spiritual, more enlightened along the way. And it's been great to be able to drop that whole thing. Is there any questions?
We actually have 2 questions actually so far.
Yeah, let's touch base on them. That'll be great.
All right. First one is from Siraj. Siraj is saying, as per our last conversation, cleared my idea about segment intending. Can you please elaborate more on reality bending? Hopefully Louis will share his thoughts about this.
Reality bending?
Reality bending, yeah. Which is not a phrase I'd actually heard before when he raised that one. I'm not sure where that actually comes from. Although
does that come from Abraham Hicks, or does that... Yeah, it is provocative. I'm just wondering where it came from, where the origins are, or if you made it up yourself, or I'm just curious. If you can come back on that. So I wanted to talk about segment intending. Now, Abraham Hicks has replaced the wording segment intending.
Oh, they have? I didn't hear that.
to something I'm more in favor with, and it's called path paving.
Path paving, okay.
Yeah. I kind of like that more than segment intending.
Well, it's clearer. It tells you what it's about more.
Yeah. So, just for those who don't know what it is, Suraj, path paving is when you wake up in the morning and you try to stay in the happy place for as long as possible. Then you visualize yourself going to your bathroom and brushing your teeth and having fun doing that. And then when you're in the bathroom, you spend a couple of, let's say 30 seconds on focusing, going down to the kitchen and having your gorgeous breakfast, which I love, my shake in the morning. And I throw all my bits in it and I just absolutely adore it. And I've been doing that for 10 years and I still look forward every morning to coming down and having my shake in the morning.
By the way, Suraj followed up. He says, yes, it's from an Abraham Hicks book. So we'd be curious to know which book that was because we don't recognize the term. Not that it's not in there, it's just we just don't remember it. So if you could tell us which book, that would be helpful.
Well, reality bending to me would be the whole concept of focusing on what you want rather than where you are.
Yes.
Okay, so the only way to get more of what you want is to stop looking so much where you are and just to bin it. Just put it away. So what? Who cares who I am today? I'm interested in who I'm going to be tomorrow, and I'm going to think in the present, in the moment now, where I'm going to be tomorrow. And it'll be perceived by others around you that you're bending reality, that you're, like my wife is called, a witch. Whatever she wants at work manifests for her, and they think she's got some weird powers. And she just says it's just the law of attraction.
It's one of the key concepts. I think it is actually introduced in The Secret as well, is the idea that what I'm experiencing in the now is not reflective of what I'm thinking right now. It's what I was thinking. Whereas what I'm thinking right now is going to be reflected in terms of what comes down the road, which is, again, not the way we normally think about things, but it is true. And it's good to remember when we're this is really important to remember, I find, if I can, when I'm in the middle of not feeling so good. And I want to try to get back into that good feeling place, reminding myself, this is not based on what I'm thinking right now. It's what I was thinking that's led me here. And what I'm working on right now is changing my thinking so that my future feeling is going to be a good feeling. There's that delay factor, and that delay factor can be very confusing.
But it was another thing I was saying to a guy. He was saying, when I had that accident, I wasn't thinking negative, I was happy. And I said to him, that may be true at the moment, but your previous thinking would have created some level of vulnerability. And the concept was very, very challenging for the individual to grasp, and we had a lot of arguments about it. But the concept is very, very clear when everyone puts it. It doesn't come out of the oblivious. It doesn't come out of the blue as we think it does. It comes out of the oblivious, which some people would call the subconscious, and subconscious would be defined by Abraham as thoughts that you thought about what you didn't want in the past that are materializing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, putting those pieces together is important. I don't know if I've fully answered your question, Suraj. If I haven't, if you can elaborate more. Anything else?
I think you pretty much covered it. Nasha has a question. Now, her question actually ties into a book that I read, a key portion of it live on the show called Into the Magic Shop. Fascinating book. I don't know if you caught any of those episodes, Louis.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I had never heard of it either. Linda Armstrong told me about it, and I found a copy of it. And the first section of it, it's a book written by a guy named James R. Doty, who is a neurosurgeon, and he was trying to express many of the beliefs that he has acquired both before and during being a neurosurgeon about the nature of the universe and so forth. And he tells the story of how in 1968 he was living in Lancaster, California, and dirt poor. Father was a raging alcoholic. Mother was depressed, spent most of her time in bed. No family life of any kind. Poor as dirt. Miserable, just plain miserable. And he spends most of his summer vacation riding around on his bicycle anywhere away from home that he can be, and just rides around town. And he ends up riding past a section of town, and this town sounds very, sounds like the Old West in a sense. A lot of dirt, a lot of dust, not a whole lot of pretty stuff going on. It's just kind of a desolate area. And he comes up on this one little strip mall that's kind of on the outskirts of town, and a person has just put in a magic shop in that strip mall, a place where you can buy magic tricks, for the budding magician. Well, long story short, he ends up meeting the mother of the owner of the shop, who ends up teaching him a different kind of magic. And that different kind of magic is what we would call being a deliberate creator using the law of attraction. But they don't use any of those terms. Mm-hmm. And it's a fascinating story that he tells. Apparently, this is what really happened to him when he was 12 years old. And it's how it basically set the tone of his life and some practices in his life. The practices that are taught to him by Ruth, who is the teacher in this. Ruth teaches him what we would call meditation, mindfulness, meaning getting the clutter out of the mind, all that negative self-talk and so forth, opening up the heart, and then putting out your intention. That's her 4-step process. And he ends up using it first and foremost to keep his family from being evicted, because as usual, they're about to be evicted from their apartment, and at the last second, money mysteriously materializes out of nowhere with 3 months worth of rent and all this other stuff. And he creates, in that story, he creates a list of 10 items under her direction of the things that he wants to attract in his life. One of those things being to become a doctor. Even though he has absolutely no clue about how to become a doctor, he has no idea about how any of it works, that you have to have good grades, that you have to apply to college, you have to apply to med school. He has no idea how any of that stuff works because he has no guidance. But nevertheless, he does have the one guidance, which is this kind of thing that we talk about, that was taught to him by this woman named Ruth, and he ends up just following his nose and becoming a neurosurgeon. So quite an interesting story, which is why I read it. I thought it was really a cool take on LOA. Well, Nasha was listening in on those episodes, and she says her question is, I'm reading the book Into the Magic Shop, and now that I have to make a list with an open heart, I'm a bit confused. So how do I make a list with the open heart? Because I believe, like Jim, I have missed the very point of, I'm not sure what that was supposed to be, of what he knows of becoming a doctor. I think that's what that is intended to say. Of what he wants the most. Oh, I see. He misses the very point of what he wants the most, which is true. That's part of what Jim tells in the book, how he was pretty good at step 1, meditating, pretty good at step 2 of mindful and clearing the negative self-chat and so forth. But he was getting impatient by the time it came to opening his heart. So he kind of skipped past that most of the time and went right to step 4 of intending. And tells about how he really regrets having skipped that because he ended up creating a lot of pain for himself later on down the road. And she's saying that she thinks she's kind of skipping that part too. It's not something that Abraham talks about very much directly in the way that this book does, nor does The Secret or any of the other major teachers. Wayne Dyer, maybe to a certain extent, does. But the idea of not just what are you going to ask for, but what's your spirit in doing that? What's your intention? I mean, are you doing it for ill or for good? Are you putting out these intentions in order to help others or just to help yourself? What's your goal? And it kind of flies a little bit in the face of what Abraham teaches, because Abraham teaches us how we are all inherently selfish. Inherent selfishness is a good thing. We're doing stuff for our own benefit and so forth. This particular approach is saying, well, you also should take into account what's going on with people that are around you, people that you're trying to influence, because what you do there is going to come back to you one way or another. It's part of law of attraction. What you put out comes back. And it's an interesting point. I mean, not one that Abraham usually addresses, but an interesting point nonetheless. The thing I'm not really clear about is what the question is, Nasha. You say you're a bit confused about that, and I can understand the confusion. You say the point is that Jim misses the point that he wants most. I'm not sure how I would address that in terms of what he tells in the story. He tends to... He was a very angry person as a child. That becomes clear in the story. He was not somebody who struck out at other people. To the contrary, at one point he sees a bully beating up on a kid and he intervenes. Cool story too, the way he tells that, Louis. He intervenes by basically going up to the kid, getting in the kid's face, and doing nothing, and just staring him down. And the bully just kind of gives up and goes away, which is a very interesting story. And in that sense, Jim does take others into account as he does his intending. What he doesn't seem to do...
Walter, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Tell me something that you really want to do for somebody else.
That I want to do for somebody else. Let's see. Well, I don't really want to do anything for anybody else because I can't really do anything for anybody else anyway. I want to be kind of what we do here on the podcast. I want to be an influencer in the sense that I want to help influence people to...
And why do you want to influence anybody?
I don't have a clear answer for that.
Because you'll feel better in the doing of it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I'll feel better. So, I want to be available to help people who ask for help. I guess that's the way I'm phrasing it. And in so doing, yes, that will help me feel better.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to point out is no matter who or what you want to help other people do, in any shape or form, it's because you want to do it because you think you'll feel better in the doing / having of it.
Right.
Okay. So there is we are narcissistic if we like it or not. We do things selfishly.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how much we want to help somebody else. We do it because we think it'll make us feel a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm thinking Nash is talking about there and what Abram's talking about is step 3. And step 3 is the allowing. Now, to allow, you have to remove all resistance.
Yep.
Okay. If you want instant manifestation of anything, or quicker manifestation, the removing of the resistance is absolutely key.
And it's also a point of confusion. This
was the challenge that you were talking about that this guy wrote this book was having. He was saying that, I wanted it, but I want it now. Mm-hmm. I haven't get it. So he was feeling the lack of it, and the lack of it is the resistance. So to me, Nasha, he's talking very, very much about the words I love are let go and let God. Another way to put it is let go and let vortex. Okay? Because your vortex is an accumulation of everything that you want, and it knows the quickest and easiest way to help you manifest it in your life. And it's dying to give you that route, bring the people in, etc. But you need to lower your resistance to have the flow going, to have the grid fill in so that you can have the pieces of the puzzle fall in place so that you can manifest what you want. So I've brought this up once before, and I think it might be worthwhile bringing up now again, is what's the difference between white magic and black magic?
I think I won't even ask. I'll just wait to find out what it is.
So white magic is when you want to help somebody, but by helping them, you invade their space.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Because they didn't ask for it.
Yeah,
right?
that's a great point. Yeah.
That's white magic. Black magic is you'll do what I say and I'll force you to do it. Okay? Pure manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it should be is you should just mind your own business.
Yeah.
Okay? You should have me doing this, me doing that, me doing the other, not that person must love me, that person must do that to make me feel happy, that person must put down the toilet seat to make me happy, that one must put it up, and all the other things. So
Siraj made a very funny comment about this. He said, stay in your own vortex.
Stay in your own vortex, I love it.
Isn't that good?
It's the same as staying in your own lane, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
I like it. Fantastic, I love that. Yeah.
I think I have some more follow-up here. Let me see if I can get what the follow-up questions and statements were.
So when I studied the occult, so just read it and have it clear in your mind, Walt, and I'll just talk about this. When I studied the occult, they talked about the pentagram, and in the pentagram, it's who, I, what, where, and when. So you just, on each corner of the pentagram, you write who, and then if you put somebody else there, that's where all the mistakes come in. So if you put yourself there, everything goes right. What, where, and when, how, what, where, and when, it's all very, very important, very easy to fill in. And then once you've written it all down, you burn it. Now that's the letting go part. So many, many years ago when I was studying all these different things, they were just talking about the law of attraction. And the important thing just to know is when you got the who, just put yourself in there. If you put yourself in there, everything is safe. Everything's perfect. But as soon as you put who as being somebody else, then it all falls apart. So you've got to be very, very careful about how you word all that. Okay.
I like the way you also phrased it. White magic, black magic, and stay in your own lane as three different options.
There's three different options.
And I've long believed, even long before I knew about law of attraction, I believed in the third one. To this day, I make it a practice. I never try to help somebody unless they ask for help. I always just keep my nose out of it, or at least I try. I can't say I'm 100% perfect about that, but I try to. That's my goal. My goal is to never, ever intrude where I'm not being asked. And
when you study the law of attraction, Walt, it becomes easier and easier to do it because it's completely logical. It doesn't make any sense to put your nose in other people's business anymore. And you realize that there's so much less resistance if you're just focusing on where you're going, because when the law of attraction brings in the cooperative component, it is the right person at the right time, the right place, and that beautiful merging happens and you shoot forward together because you both want to.
It's funny that
you're heading in the
said
same
it's logical.
direction.
It's funny you said it's logical because I was about to say it was emotional. And the reason I was going to say that is whenever I find myself crossing the line and sticking my nose in where it doesn't belong.
You have that negative emotion.
I get that negative emotion, usually in the form of getting punched in the nose or something along that line. But it's like, get out of my space, get out of my space. So, I mean, you're right, it is logical, but my thought was I find out about it first emotionally because I get this emotional backlash whenever I try to step into somebody else's zone.
And you know how key that is, Walt, is to become more and more. If you wanted to, what's next in the law of attraction? It's really every day listening to your emotions and acting on them. If it's a positive emotion, head in that direction. If it's a negative emotion, turn around, go the other way. Okay? So if you're just doing that constantly every day of your life, every aware minute that you've got, you are miles ahead of anything and everyone else. It'll go so much better for you.
Now,
and if you want to know what faith is about, faith is about trusting that your higher self is giving you the right emotion so that you can make the right decision.
I have a couple follow-ups. First of all, Nasha followed up with both Nasha and Suraj responded well, thanking us and appreciating what we were saying. Nasha asked, that's all good and I agree with you. How do you remove resistance? How do you overcome the resistance?
Yeah, great question. Let's talk about that. So, Nasha, let's look at resistance as clogged pipes. Now, if you go and you take those crystals that are formed on the pipes and that are slowing down the water flow, and you take a chisel and hammer and you go down there and you try and chop them off, but some of these things are really, really hard. Now, the object really is to get water from point A to point B, isn't it?
That's right.
So if you lay new pipes over the top of those ones and you get the water from point A to point B, do you think you're heading in the right direction?
It sounds like it.
Is water getting to point B? Yep.
It is.
Okay. So if you've got a strong flow of water happening with the new pipes, new thoughts, okay, then the old ones will disintegrate and vanish in time, okay, because you're not placing any attention on them. And as soon as you place attention on them, they get bigger. So Nasha, my biggest suggestion for you is lay some new pipes, lay some new thoughts, lay some thoughts that are focused on what you want and not what you don't want. And focus on them. Spend that 17 seconds to a minute focusing on what you want. Get the law of attraction kicking in and really spending, if you do it for about a minute, you're getting about 2 million hours worth of manual labor kicked in by the universal law of attraction, which you can't get anywhere else. You can't beat that. You just can't.
This is true.
Once you understand the law of attraction and how it works, you really want to spend a little more time focusing on what you want. Really do.
And on the question of staying in your own lane, Nasha had a couple of follow-up question about that. She says, I want to help people when they ask for it, but it's funny how they back off. So now I'm not dealing with anyone's problems. She says, I'm very much my own person. but I really do want to help. And she's looking for our comments about that.
So, Nasha, do you know why they're backing off? I'll tell you why they're backing off. They're backing off very simply. They're backing off because then you're not a vibrational match to helping them.
Mm.
They're not ready for where you're going, what you want to teach, and what you want to help. Okay, so they're backing off because they don't feel the synchronicity. They're backing off because it's not a vibrational match. So the people you'll find that you are helping when you're in your high positive, happy place, they will not be necessarily the people you think you should be helping.
Interesting point. Yeah. That's a very good point. Most often, we look for a way to help somebody else, which is actually a little bit backward, but that's the way we tend to think about it. I'm looking for a way to help somebody else. But in fact, the time when we're most helpful is the time when we're not asking that question, and they're just coming to us because they need to, and it just kind of comes out of the blue. There was no pre-planning involved, you know? So, first of all, much less likely to kind of step over the line. And second of all, it's going to seem like it just came out of nowhere. Like, I don't know where that came from.
Yeah. So Nasha, this is what happens is, if you want to help somebody, this is where it all goes screwy. If you think they are broken, incapable, or unable to, or in some way not right or perfect where they're at, that's where everything falls apart. Okay?
Good point.
That's where it falls apart.
Yeah.
And that's why they back off, because they feel that. They've seen you look at them as broken, and they want to run away because they don't want to feel broken. They don't want that vibration around them. They're running away.
And that is a challenge.
So
it's a challenge to think of somebody as being whole when you initially want to see them as broken. You're noticing what's wrong. The challenge.
I don't know if you initially want to, Walt. I think the wording is you've been programmed to from birth see that poor beggar on the street is a poor beggar.
Oh, all right. Okay. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there is actually a want involved very often, but either explanation works.
Broken. I don't
know.
know.
I think so because, well, it's a comparative thing. Look at look at what's popular on television as a general rule. It's usually about people who are living much worse lives than you are. And the idea is, if you see how terrible their life is, you feel better about yours by comparison. So that's why you're so attached to watching it.
Yeah. I haven't thought of it that way.
I try not to. It's not healthy.
No, but I'm talking about from the philosophical point of view.
Me too.
What other people think. Yeah. It's I'm so clear about what I understand and where I'm going and how I think about things that I often don't quite see some the places where some people are coming from some of the time.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
That's why I think it's so valuable to not try to go help
That's why I'm enjoying
else.
all the guys asking the questions here.
Yeah, well, there's that too, yes.
Then we can know what you don't know. So
that's
that we
right.
can help.
Yeah. It's so much better, though, when we just kind of let stuff come and not worry about what's going on, not even try to figure out whether they're broken. And if you're going to look at somebody at all, look at them in a way that says, no, they're not broken. They're perfectly fine. They're healthy. They're learning stuff. They're dipping in contrast. They're perhaps setting themselves up for stuff. But that was their decision. They're the ones who did that. It's not like I did that to them. It's not like
and their higher self thinks that this will be the perfect messy situation to help you expand.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
and
hard.
I love that statement, Siraj, your vibes attract your tribes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people think your family is your tribe.
That's true. A lot of people do think
and
that.
And it can be your tribe, but
it
can also necessarily be your
Yep.
Because as your vibration changes, you may be so out of sync with your family's vibration. And if you need to lower your vibration to get back in sync with them, you're not doing anybody any favors.
Yep.
Now, they can either come up to your vibration or they can stay out of your life. It's the way it works. Universal law of attraction makes no exceptions.
Isn't that an interesting thing, too? Because when we are trying to reach out to help
Walt
somebody
becomes
else...
my tribe. Siraj becomes my tribe. Amanda and Nasha become my tribe. Okay, so that's the way it works. You make new tribes. You make new tribes.
But isn't it interesting, though, that when we try to reach out to help somebody uninvited, what we really have to do in order to make that happen is we have to lower our vibration.
Yes.
We don't think about it that way, but that's what we have to do.
No, we don't. No, I've got to get back to the family. I've got to talk to them again. I've got to apologize. And I was explaining to this lady the other day, never apologize for anything. She said, what do you mean? I said, what is happening when you're rude to somebody? When you're rude to somebody, if you follow the rocket of desire, it is, wouldn't it be nice if I was nicer to people? Mm-hmm. Okay? So if you go and apologize, are you focusing on what you don't want or what you want? Most of the time it's what you don't want, and you feel pretty shitty about going back and apologizing. Yeah. But if you in your own self think, oh, I'm just going to be happier and nicer to all the new people that I meet, and from now on I've changed and this is what I'm going to focus on, and that's fine. You don't have to go back and apologize, but you're now a better version because you were rude to somebody. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're using that as a stepping stone, and by not being so rude to other people and being nicer to people, you are now truly apologizing to that person in the best way possible.
Apologizing and forgiveness are fascinating concepts for a couple reasons. One is we tend as human beings to misunderstand what the purpose of forgiveness is. We tend to think that forgiveness is about letting the person who wronged us off the hook, when in fact forgiveness is really about letting ourselves off the hook.
It's got nothing to do with another person, nothing else.
Yeah, but that's what we think about it as. We think about it, you know, I need to forgive them so that they'll feel better. No. You need to forgive them so you'll feel
will you
better.
Forgive me for interrupting you?
I'll never forgive you for that. Never, ever. And the same thing is also true for the idea of gratitude.
Please forgive me, please.
Sounds like a song.
Doesn't it sound terrible? Feel terrible.
The same thing can often be true for gratitude. One of the reasons why Abraham distinguishes between gratitude and appreciation, because gratitude also often has this added baggage attached to it that, you know, well, I'm being grateful for somebody else's benefit, which is not the case at all, but that is what we tend to do. Or if it's not being grateful for somebody else's benefit, it's being grateful for the purpose of avoiding some kind of a pain, which is really not what appreciation is all about. But again,
any more questions, Walt?
Let's see. A lot of commentary, people saying that they're liking and sharing ideas and so forth. I don't see any new questions.
Amanda, I haven't been in the vibrational vicinity of my family for a long time, so yeah. Keep happy. Make sure you're thinking about them with the most positive thoughts you can. Remember all the things you liked about them. Keep that vibration active, and they may well come back and talk to you on your level. Okay? So it's not like you're abandoning your family. It's not what I'm suggesting.
Right.
I'm suggesting that you're now just looking at all the positive things that you believe and remember about.
Interesting, too. When we say it that way, think about the positive things. It's amazing how much that eliminates.
Not only eliminate, it allows them to come back easily and quickly.
Well, yeah,
if
that too. But I mean, the usual thought patterns, those usual thought patterns, the negative ones, the ones that we've lived with and gotten so upset about, and, you know, this other person in the family is treating me badly, and I keep having this fight with them, and all this other kind of stuff. All that goes away the moment that you successfully shift, that I successfully shift my mind toward, what do I like about that person? What's good about that person? What feels good about that person? Because you can't hold simultaneously positive and negative thoughts in your mind. You can try to. I've tried many times. I thought I even succeeded. And then I realized all I was doing was holding on to the negative thought. I
You're
really
a
wasn't holding
personality,
a positive.
are you?
Oh, yeah, it's terrible sometimes. Well, you know, we try to make bargains with the law of attraction, with how the universe works. You know, okay, I'll feel better if you'll let me just feel bad for a moment. Isn't that what happens?
Let me hit myself over the back with those cat and nine tails, and then everything's so much better. Then I've paid for my sins.
Yeah, that's right. No, but it's true.
Funny.
We
and people do that every day. It may not be that visual, but
oh yeah, no, it's not that extreme either. But it does have that same direction constantly. That all these focuses that we have, and we'll even try to convince ourselves that we're not really focusing, but we're giving the sidelong glances. I'm not focusing on that negative stuff. I'm not focusing on that negative stuff. And of course, by saying that, I'm focusing on the negative stuff.
But I believe it all boils down to the belief that there is an entity outside ourselves that is judging us.
Talk about that for a second.
Well, many times religion has made people believe there's heaven and hell, and if you do bad things, you're going to go to hell, and of course the entity in the sky is going to judge you and send you to hell. So, when you see God as outside yourself and judging you, then it becomes, everything gets a bit like you want to hit yourself over the back because you want to appease God,
Sarah made an interesting comment here. I wanted to share it because it's a good comment in and of itself, but it also kind of points to what I was talking about a moment ago.
Hi, Sarah.
Yes, hello, Sarah. Thank you for joining us. She says, I walked away from my circle of friends. I've attended spiritual groups and healing circles to try and be around more people with the same interest. Any tips on attracting like-minded people? And I've done the same thing. I mean, not specifically that approach, but I've done the same thing. Walk away from the people who I'm not doing well with and try to find people who I do better with. And that's a healthy thing to do. And yet, look at the way you started that. You started it the way we all do. I walk away from my circle of friends. There's still that negative focus. I got to walk away from them. I mean, Abraham talks about it a lot.
There's no reason to walk away from anybody ever.
Well, more precisely, you can't really walk away if what you're trying to do is to get away from whatever pain is associated with them, because you're going to bring the pain with you until you address it in some way.
You carry yourself with you means carry your vibration with you, which means you will bring. You'll go into this new spiritual group and you'll attract the other people who are not so nice again because you carry the same vibration with you. So you can have different places and different faces, but if you're still carrying yourself with you. So as Jim Rohn says, and I really love Jim Rohn. I don't know if you know who he is.
I don't know the name, no.
Business mentor, philosopher.
Okay.
He said, for things to change, you have to change.
Yes.
Okay. So it does help. I remember when I left South Africa to come to the UK, big step. I just had a credit card that could go £1,000 in debt, and that was about it. Landed sleeping on a floor with eight or nine South Africans in a house in the lounge, and they all came there to smoke, and it was freezing cold winter from the hot summer.
Wow.
Wasn't so great, but it was interesting. When I was in South Africa, I couldn't get a girlfriend for love of money, for anything. Mm-hmm. And when I came out to the UK, something shifted in me that nobody knew me. Nobody was going to box me into a thought process of who Louis was. Mm-hmm. I could now be anything I wanted to be, and I struggled to find, not anymore, I've now got the balance, but for many years I struggled to find male friends. Mm-hmm. Only had female friends. So changing places does have a huge benefit to it, going to different groups. As long as you ride with it and looking more to the positive and what you like about everybody and feel about.
Well, that's just it. I mean, if you're taking advantage of the change of geography to also use that to change your thought process, then it's definitely worthwhile because you've just changed your thought process. That's really the goal. It isn't so much changing where you're located. It's changing what you're thinking about. But sometimes that's needed. Sometimes we just have to get away from all that negative stuff we've attracted to ourselves. We just have to kind of walk away from it for a second just to kind of clear our heads. It's just important to remember that just because we walked away from it for a second doesn't mean it won't continue to follow us because we continue to focus on it. Of course it's going to continue to follow us.
It becomes quite clear after a while how it all works. So you can use it to your advantage, but you have to change at the same time.
Yes, exactly. And when we understand it that way, then it becomes a strategy for changing our own thought process. And that's good. Any strategy that changes our thought process for the better is a good thing to do. Mm. Just don't want to make it a substitution for making the change.
Yeah. Nasha is so correct. I've used this thousands of times myself. When you board a plane, They tell you to put your gas mask on yourself first before your children.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it's so true. You know, if you don't put it on yourself first, you could go unconscious, and then you won't be able to put it on your children. So.
No, it doesn't help much.
All three of you die instead of one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a valid point. And if you're looking after number one, you know, what kind of example do you want to give your kids?
Good question.
Do you want to give your kids the example of a happy person who goes out seeking what they want and doing what they enjoy? Or do you want to be a parent who wants to do everything for their kids? You know, it just seems so weird that people do actually do that, but they spend so much of their time and effort looking after the kids. They don't have a life themselves. They become unhappy and depressed, and then that is the example they give their kids to live by. And I was like, how does that work?
Well, it doesn't, clearly. Well, it works counterproductively, let's put it that way.
Very counterproductive.
But people don't notice that. Which is in and of itself a fascinating thing that we don't.
You can't be selfish, Walt.
That's right.
Your kids. You brought them into the world. They're just little babies. Yeah, just little babies.
We get confused about those kinds of things for sure.
How many lives have I lived?
I was once told the answer to that.
When I'm born. When I'm born, somebody wants to call me a little baby. Oh, come on. How many lives have I lived? Don't you call me a little baby? How much more than that?
I once had a psychic tell me that I'd lived over 1,300 lives, and I said, boy, have I been busy.
You see, the confusing thing, Walt, is you've lived them all in the present.
Yeah, I try not to go there. It just becomes too confusing.
Just very confusing.
The brain goes, boggle, I can't handle this.
No, that's the confusing part about that.
Oh, my goodness. Let's see. Do we have other questions or comments? Lots of comments. People are doing what I love. They're sharing all their ideas and so forth, and I like that. Guys,
I want to ask you all a favor. I want next week if everybody can bring me their favorite quote.
Okay? Favorite quote?
Favorite quotes. Bring it to the table beforehand, or just paste it in the group. And I will break it down. I do not want any Abraham Hicks quotes.
So anybody but Abraham.
Anybody but Abraham, okay? And that are official quotes by other people, not something you made up. Or I mean, they can be something you made up. Yeah, they can be.
Does it need to be somebody who's also an LOA teacher, or just in general?
No. Preferably a more general one. The kind of things you would see on Facebook that people will throw up now and again.
Right. Something that shows up on a meme or something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I want to dissect them using the law of attraction. I think that'll be a very interesting exercise that we can do because in my experience, there's a lot of quotes out there that we kind of hold dear to ourselves that are not very accurate as far as the breaking down into the law of attraction goes. So we're just going to clarify them and go through them and maybe reword them a little bit.
That's interesting. I mean, do any come to mind at the moment that made you think of that? Any particular famous?
It's just a theme that I've wanted to run on this chat group for a while now.
Okay, all right.
I've seen so many quotes that have, well, my back hair's up because the society is so much in love with them, and they think they're so accurate and they're so incredibly flawed.
I mean, one of the more extreme ones that I can think of is one that circled around a lot when I was in my 20s and 30s, which is life sucks and then you die.
You know, I actually think that's quite accurate. I actually quite agree with that. For a lot of people.
Wait a minute, that's not the way this teacher thing is supposed to work.
To get you to laugh, it must be right.
To be that, excuse me, that was actually one of the first things I overcame that I turned around in my head when I started learning about law of attraction was that particular quote. That's why I thought of it. because that quote I realized was only true because I thought it was true. And that changed the whole tenor of it. It changed the whole feel for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's something very similar that a girl, when I was studying at university, she said to me, Louis, get a life.
Get a life.
I was so shocked by that. I had never heard this comment before. And I took it very personally, and I was very much studying my spiritual path. It's like, I've got a life. What are you talking about? What's wrong with my life? I was like so thrown by that comment. Get a life.
I remember the first time. I don't
me
remember
about
the
a year or two to get to grips with it.
I don't remember the exact circumstance, but I remember my reaction the first time I heard that. My reaction was, "What? You think I'm dead? I feel like I'm alive."
You just don't know it.
I guess I was the Walking Dead. I was a zombified person.
Get a life.
Get a life.
It's a very attacking one.
Oh yeah,
it was for me. Very attacking. Get a life.
Well, we were talking earlier about how most instances where people try to help each other without being asked first, either as a good witch or a bad witch, either way, are instances where the person is really being disrespectful of that life, of that person's choices and thoughts and so forth. And in that process, they are effectively saying, get a life because the life you have right now isn't a real life. I know the route to the real life. Which is quite offensive, actually.
and if I start explaining to you the life that this girl lived, she's a very promiscuous one. It starts having different implications.
Well, some people prefer tea, some people prefer coffee. I mean, that's just the way it is. Personally, I don't drink either one, but I respect the tea drinkers and I respect the coffee drinkers, and I'm certainly not going to try to talk them out of it.
So, Amanda, some quotes blow you away as well, yes. So I'd love you guys just to send some, even if you know they may be a bit screwy, because I know you guys are quite advanced on this group, so just pull them out so we can just dissect them and go through them. It's very interesting when you start doing that, because you become confident enough to take anybody's information, no matter who gives it to you, and be able to know how to dissect it yourself and how you feel about it yourself. Doesn't matter where it comes from, when it comes from, or how it comes from. I know a lot of people recently saying to me they couldn't handle the Abraham Hicks teachings because of the channeling aspect.
Yeah,
and
that's a big stumbling block for people.
And I simply said, I don't care where truth comes from.
Exactly.
Come from the garbage, it can come from a newspaper, it can come from a Bible, it can come from anywhere. I don't mind where it comes from, but if I feel it's right, I'll run with it. I'll run with it. And it's important for people to really get a grip of how to analyze things for themselves and to know, looking at this material, how they should feel about it and where to go with it. How to know that every subject's two subjects, how you rip out the one side that you don't want, amplify the side that you do want, and really go with that, because it's immensely, immensely helpful for anybody.
Amanda's saying, yes, some quotes blow me away, and I like that. I like the way she says that, because that's exactly what they do. Usually we use the phrase blow me away in terms of being impressed, but actually in most cases they blow me away in terms of driving me as far away as humanly possible.
Possible from them, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Well, this has been, as usual, a very enjoyable and entertaining and educational segment. Unfortunately, of course, our hour is done. But, Louis, thank you so much for your insights and your commentary. It's been very much appreciated.
Thank you, Walt.
All right.
And cheers, guys. I hope you have a fantastic week. I will see you on Monday next week.
Absolutely.
And, carpe diem.
Carpe diem. Yeah, seize the day. And we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Bye.